So the immediate solution to the problem of the rising cost of beef, president wants to bring that down, is we have to increase our supply. And so that's what he's doing with respect to these imports. But the president also is looking out for our ranchers with a long-term plan that was released by the Secretary of Agriculture. It's a three-part plan. Number one, strengthening U.S. cattle production through increased grazing access, endangered species reforms, enhanced disaster relief, increased access to capital, and reducing costs for new and young ranchers. We want to incentivize more Americans to get into this noble profession, lowering long-term costs by cutting inspection costs, increasing market options for consumers with Product of USA labeling, and ensuring consumers know that they are eating American beef. And lastly, growing the domestic herd while boosting long-term demand to reduce prices for consumers while growing the markets for our ranchers. So President hears them. He has to address both of these problems for the ranchers, but also for the American consumer. He promised to lower costs, and that's what he's committed to doing.
This is hilarious. Tension boils over in rural America as MAGA ranchers lash out. Well, first it was soybean farmers, and now it's ranchers. It looks like the whole agriculture sector is on a hot pan. Anyway, Trump turned his back on them, and in this video, we uncover how Trump's shocking move to buy beef from Argentina has left the US ranchers angry, broke, and betrayed. Many are saying, this isn't the man we voted for. Well, it looks like the polls showed that most of them did vote for this guy, and that's why they're feeling betrayed. But when they say that this isn't the man they voted for, well, this statement echoes through the heart of America's beef industry. And I want to know, do you think they should regret, or it's just the consequences of their vote? Tell me what you think down in the comments.
He's now proposing buying beef from Argentina because we all know this, beef prices are on the rise in the United States. But we've already seen a Republican Senator, Deb Fischer of Nebraska, say that this is going to hurt U.S. cattle ranchers. And there's got to be a better way to lower prices. What's your take on this? Because we already have U.S. soybean farmers saying, hold on, we're getting screwed in this trade war. Now we got cattle ranchers?
Yeah, and so I don't understand the whole economic policies of this administration. They're willing to hurt American farmers, American cattle ranchers, beef ranchers, and yet they're putting tariffs on foreign goods that are coming into this country, and they're bailing out our farmers after putting the tariffs on, and yet bailing out Argentina, which was supposed to be, the great miracle in South America with Milei. I just am so confused, as I've said several times on this program before, by the economic policies of this administration. They make no sense.
Okay, well, here's something that's not confusing. The big business that's tied to this administration.
Picture this. You've got a president sitting in the White House right now who's already crapped all over the veterans. He's already crapping on the farmers. He's destroying the soybean market, which China was a big part of, like it or not. They definitely were. And now he's turning around and telling ranchers, cattle ranchers in particular, the only reason you're successful is because of me. My tariffs brought peace to the world and peace in the Middle East. He's talking about a ceasefire that lasted, 3 days, 4 days? There's been dozens upon dozens of people getting killed, and he's still taking credit for it. What ceasefire? I don't see a ceasefire in place. Let's go back to the cattle rancher, though. These guys have worked their whole lives. They're generational farms, they're generational ranchers.
Question is, what do you have to say to U.S. farmers who feel that the deal is benefiting Argentina more than it is them, they are
Argentina's fighting for its life, young lady. You don't know anything about it. They're fighting for their life. Nothing's benefiting Argentina. They're fighting for their life. You understand what that means? They have no money. They have no anything. They're fighting so hard to survive. If I can help them survive in a free world, I happen to like the president of Argentina. I think he's trying to do the best he can. But don't make it sound like they're doing great. They are dying. All right? They're dying.
What do you mean by
ranches? And he's taking credit for any type of success they have. It's only because of him and his tariffs that have saved them. Yeah, that's right. You don't know what the hell you're doing because you've only done this for 40, 50 years, and you did it after your father and after your grandfather. Generational farms, generational ranches. And he's sitting in the White House behind the Resolute desk inside the Oval Office taking credit for your work. And you know what the saddest part is? Now, I hate to say this, but you voted for him. Every one of you stood up there and said, but you told us you loved us. Now we need to see the fruits of your love. Well, you're saying that now, but you weren't saying that last year around this time, were you? Everybody kept listening to Donald Trump talk about how Joe Biden has ruined the economy.
So Donald Trump is now feuding with America's cattle ranchers, telling them that they should be thankful for him, that they are not being grateful enough, after the cattle ranchers expressed frustration that Donald Trump is importing Argentine beef in order to deal with high beef prices. So here you see a tweet where Trump attacks the U.S. cattle ranchers for their high prices and suggests that they do not understand their own industry. He says that he understands their industry much better than they do. He writes, the cattle ranchers, who I love, don't understand that the only reason they are doing so well for the first time in decades is because I put tariffs on cattle coming into the United States, including a 50% tariff on Brazil. If it weren't for me, they would be doing just as they've done for the past 20 years. Terrible. It would be nice if they would understand that, but they also have to get their prices down because the consumer is a very big factor in my thinking also. And Trump was not done there. He then wrote, in addition to everything else, tariffs on other countries saved our cattle ranchers. It's just the complete opposite of the truth. It's just a complete and total lie. These tariffs are absolutely devastating our cattle ranchers, and they are feeling the effects. And importing Argentine beef is just yet another bailout for Argentina. It's nothing to do with America First and actually really hurts our farmers. Yesterday, Merriweather Farms wrote this whole long post. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but they said, we love and support you, but your suggestion to buy beef from Argentina to stabilize beef prices would be an absolute betrayal to the American cattle rancher. It's time to learn who this man is, Merriweather Farms. We understand that there are larger economic and geopolitical dynamics at play, including countering CCP influence in countries in our hemisphere. Argentina sells soybeans to the CCP. Donald Trump is helping the CCP by doing this. And maybe the craziest part about all this is Trump's plan doesn't even make any sense. Not only do the ranchers oppose Trump's Argentina beef imports, but experts say that it will not even lower prices at all. So here we go again, another Trump term. The farmers get screwed over again, and Trump says that they should say thank you. We'll keep covering all the news. Remember to follow along and listen to the Midas Touch podcast for more.
Destroy the economy. You better go back and start looking at the numbers again, because if it wasn't for Joe Biden, the soybean market would have still been shit after Trump's first term in office. Because they were during his first term, if you recall, he had to bail out the farmers to the tune of $23 billion, billion with a B. Now they're looking at what, $15 billion? And the number keeps going up and up. And he's going to take credit for being able to bail you out. He still doesn't understand that these tariffs get passed along to us, the consumer. And there's a lot of people out on the MAGA side saying, no, that's not true. I just saw messages about it the other day. China pays those. Well, why would China pay an import tariff? The importer in this country imports products. They pay the import tariff. They pass it along to the wholesaler, passes it along to the retailer. Do you think he's going to eat that cost? They might absorb a little bit of it. They can for a while. The bigger box store companies can. But the mom and pop shops that count on these imports, they're not going to make it.
Donald Trump has already hurt farmers across the country, either through immigration policies or trade policies, with maybe the exception of corn farmers when he signed off that allows ethanol to be produced at an increased level year-round, including the amount put in our fuel. But now, he's hurting ranchers. And the beef ranchers in this country are notoriously petty. Do you remember when they sued Oprah because she said, don't eat red beef? Well, now Donald Trump is planning on buying beef from Argentina to help the ranchers in Argentina and, in his theory and mind, to lower beef prices in the United States. He's going to bring live beef in from Argentina to the U.S. to lower price.
America's cattle ranchers and some of the biggest organizations representing them are voicing heated opposition to President Trump's decision to help Argentina. They say his plan to quadruple beef imports from Argentina will seriously hurt their bottom line, just when they've had some rare years of profitability. But the president dismissed that criticism, writing on Truth Social, the farmers don't understand how they're benefiting from his tariffs.
Well, Chris, I spoke with 5 ranchers here in Nebraska, salt of the earth people, the kindest people you will meet, all Republican. They all supported President Donald Trump. They all believe in America First policies, but they don't agree with the president on everything. They certainly don't agree with the idea of flooding the American beef market with foreign beef.
But the problem is there's nobody to process that beef because he has deported all of the workers. The people who worked at the meat processing plants across the country were overwhelmingly immigrants, and overwhelmingly they have left those jobs either on their own to protect themselves and their families, or they've been deported in raids. So I don't know where he's planning on this beef being processed. We don't even have enough processing power in the country to process the beef that ranchers in the U.S. want processed. But beef ranchers and senators for beef producing states overwhelmingly are against this plan, and they're throwing a fit, with the beef industry saying that this would destroy the beef industry in the United States, that with the struggles that they're already going through thanks to immigration policies, that Donald Trump is on a path that would dismantle beef production in the U.S. if he continues with this plan to buy live beef from Argentina and import it in an attempt to lower costs. Once again, Donald Trump is proving that he doesn't care about the people that voted for him. He only cares about the people that pay him and the people that paid for him to get reelected so he could help make them more billions.
Year, just beef cattle, our export market was we did $10 billion worth of business, 10.5. Just in 2022, up to this point, it is $12 billion.
Okay.
So the demand is higher. And for the first time ever, our US dollar value is higher than meat tonnage. So basically, people are willing to pay more overseas.
Right.
They're willing to pay more for our product.
Already starting to close down. We've got farmers around here that are already talking about selling their land because they can't afford to. They can't afford to even just keep their beans in storage. They have to sell their product to get ready for the next season. And he's taking credit for all of this. Well, he better take credit for it because he's ruining people's lives right now. Well, he's trying to take credit for telling you that you were never a success. You were never successful until I came along. What does he know about farming? What does he know about ranching? He didn't even know the word grocery still existed. People go to grocery stores every day. And he thinks he came up with a new word? That's a special kind of stupid.
Are U.S. ranchers making millions of dollars? No. The millions of dollars that you see being made in the beef industry is actually by what we call the big four packers. These four packers take the live cattle that are sold by U.S. ranchers and turn them into the beef that you see on your grocery store shelves. However, these four companies control about 85% of the entire beef industry, meaning that they are the ones that are controlling the prices and making the money. Now, in 2024, the total export value for beef was $10.46 billion. But that doesn't mean that the ranchers were the ones making the money doing this. Ranchers are selling their live cattle into the beef supply chain long before it would hit the export market. So yes, it's true that millions of dollars were made in the beef industry, but it was by these four packers and not the U.S. ranchers.
Ribeye tenderloin strips. At his butcher shop in McKinney, Texas, Matt Hamilton's customers have always looked for quality. Now they're also paying attention to the price.
Are they asking about it? Boy, what's with these beef prices?
Nonstop. I mean, it is the absolute talking point. As the nation's cattle herd has shrunk, the price of beef has soared. Ground beef is up more than 50% since 2020. And with the holidays weeks away, Hamilton is already preparing to steer people toward meat they can still afford.
We're teaching people how to slow cook a sirloin and slice it thin for a third of the price of
because you're expecting to get people to hesitate when they see
we know they
50
are.
a pound.
We know they are.
President Trump last week suggested importing more beef from Argentina to increase the available supply. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association said it would undercut the future of family farmers.
President hears them. He has to address both of these problems for the ranchers, but also for the American consumer. He promised to lower costs, and that's what he's committed to doing.
There's only 2 of those on an animal.
So the ranchers like Hamilton would like to see American beef producers be the ones to solve the problem over time.
Why are they choosing to do something else besides run cows? It's never made any money. It was never economically viable to do until now. So let's focus on that. Let's incentivize young farmers and ranchers to enter the marketplace. Let's incentivize that.
Jason Allen, CBS News.
You caught me shaking my head from that social media post because the idea that cattle ranchers in Kansas or in any state would need Donald Trump from New York City telling them that he understands cattle, the cattle markets, the the work that they do better than the people who get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's why they're successful. They're not successful because of Donald Trump. They're successful because they're working really, really hard. And I'm at a loss at why the Secretary of Agriculture would try to defend this specific thing. I know this is politics and that's kind of what people do, but this isn't about right and left. This is about right and wrong. And the idea that our cattle ranchers are being told by Donald Trump why they're successful is outrageous. And then, I've heard some of my colleagues, some of my Republican colleagues have encouraged Donald Trump to be transparent about what's going on with this idea of importing beef from Argentina. And I'll just say this, we don't need transparency to know that this policy is garbage. We need to be supporting American ranchers, farmers, producers, and this ain't it.
Everybody's wound up today because Trump says we're going to import all this beef from Argentina. We're going to lower our beef prices because the beef's too expensive here. And I thought I'd throw my 2 cents in. First of all, it's not really a new thing to import beef. We've imported beef in this country for a long time. What is new, however, is the government getting involved because of the prices and saying the beef prices are too high. We're going to make a deal. We're going to buy a bunch of beef from Argentina and we're going to undercut the American farmers and ranchers who are finally making some decent money. And that's just, it's a socialist mindset, if you ask me. That's not what I've grown up thinking as an American market, supply and demand. Where did that go?
U.S. beef is the highest in demand across the world.
The U.S. supplies 18% of the world's beef.
U.S. farmers and ranchers produce 18% of the world's beef production with only 6% of the world's cattle population.
So I live in an ultra-conservative MAGA community. I was raised to be ultra-conservative and MAGA, but our community was actually built on cattle ranchers. And yes, every single one of these cattle ranchers in my community have been diehard MAGA. So I want to read the letter that Trump wrote to them. To the cattle ranchers, who I love that I was able to hoodwink for their vote. They are too stupid to understand that the only reason that they could possibly have any success is because I, Donald J. Trump, taxed them and their consumers with the tariffs that I placed on foreign nations. In fact, if it weren't for me, they would have to go back to doing whatever it is that they were doing before the days of cattle ranching. But it would be nice if they understood that. But these cattle ranchers need to get their prices down, because the truth is I never cared about America first or the American farmer. If you don't believe me, just look what I did to the soybean market. I just sent $40 billion to Argentina to influence their elections. So that's why you, the American farmer, cannot have health care. And to the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, I read your response about how you cannot stand behind me. Well, I warned you, all you had to do was vote for me this one time, and that would be it. So thank you.
Tucker, did you hear what Trump said? He's going to start importing beef from Argentina. This is the end, man.
Well, Trump says a lot of things. Let's just take a deep breath before we decide to sell the ranch.
You not mad? That's foreign beef, Tucker. Foreign!
Yeah, but beef from Argentina is normally pretty lean. Not like the marbled, high-quality beef that we raise here in the U.S. People are still going to want that ribeye that melts in your mouth.
Still, we shouldn't be importing beef.
Yeah, hate to break it to you, bud, but we already do. We import from Australia, Brazil, Argentina, you name it. It's mostly lean trim for hamburger, which is not exactly replacing U.S. beef.
So you're telling me I got worked up for nothing?
Well, at least you burned some calories. That's more than beef from Argentina's got. Now, do I want to import a lot of their beef? No. Let's saddle up. Let's get to work.
Wait! I don't even have my horse!
Fuck it, since I'm shadow banned, I'm just gonna share the message with MAGA, leftists, progressives, right-wing creators, and everyone in between. Because this message is the truth. It's gonna make a lot of you mad, but you deserve to know the truth. Someone's gotta tell you it, so fuck it, why not me? It's in regards to the cattle farmers and what's going on in the USA currently. It's unfortunately a lot worse than you may even imagine. So here's what's going on. Cattle farmers are reaching out to our executive branch going, yo, Mr. President, can you help us out? We're going under financially. Like, can we please have some assistance? You said that you were going to make life more affordable for us, for our businesses. What's going on? And our president quite literally goes on TV and goes, you should be thanking me. You should be thanking me. You should be so grateful. You should be so grateful because I have just done so many great things for you. Eat shit. He didn't actually say eat shit, but he is insinuating that. As he then starts to import Argentina's beef, completely fucking over our cattle farmers here in the USA. This comes after he's also sending $40 billion to Argentina for an economic bailout there, but can't seem to send that money to people here in America that have those needs. It's baffling how anyone can support it. Now going on a little bit of another tangent that doesn't make as much national news, not as much headlines, but it really hits home to me because I'm from the Midwest. The soybean farmers are also going under. I've talked to way too many of them to know. Not saying that, it's bad that I'm talking to a lot of people, but like I've talked to, I shouldn't say way too many, I've talked to enough of them to know that it's bad. Businesses shutting down, people losing everything. And if you think it doesn't affect you, people are like, oh, well, it doesn't matter because they might have voted a different way than me. Have a heart, have a soul, have a mind. You claim to have empathy, so actually show it and have empathy. Have that soul, have that compassion for people that are losing everything right now. And also have a mind in the sense that it's going to affect you too, directly through the things that you consume in the stores. Prices will go up because of it, because of the tariffs that are hurting quite literally everyone in America, except our federal government, because that's where the money ends up going, through the pockets of the billionaires and the bureaucrats in DC. That's the truth.
So, as you've been hearing, in addition to screwing over the soybean farmers in America, Donald Trump is now screwing over the cattle farmers, the cattle ranchers in America. And the cattle ranchers, like the soybean farmers, are barking back and saying, hey, wait a minute, why are we importing beef from Argentina? Why are we giving them money to prop up their economy? How come you're not helping the American farmer? So forth and so on. And Donald Trump has a message for the cattle farmers of America. You should be fucking grateful to him.
So Donald Trump is now feuding with America's cattle ranchers, telling them that they should be thankful for him, that they are not being grateful enough, after the cattle ranchers expressed frustration that Donald Trump is importing Argentine beef in order to deal with high beef prices. So here you see a tweet where Trump attacks the U.S. cattle ranchers for their high prices and suggests that they do not understand their own industry. He says that he understands their industry much better than they do. He writes, the cattle ranchers, who I love, don't understand that the only reason they are doing so well for the first time in decades is because I put tariffs on cattle coming into the United States, including a 50% tariff on Brazil. If it weren't for me, they would be doing just as they've done for the past 20 years. Terrible. It would be nice if they would understand that, but they also have to get their prices down because the consumer is a very big factor in my thinking also. And Trump was not done there. He then wrote, in addition to everything else, tariffs on other countries saved our cattle ranchers. It's just the complete opposite of the truth. It's just a complete and total lie. These tariffs are absolutely devastating our cattle ranchers, and they are feeling the effects. And importing Argentine beef is just yet another bailout for Argentina. It's nothing to do with America first, and actually really hurts our farmers. Yesterday, Merriweather Farms wrote this whole long post. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but they said, we love and support you, but your suggestion to buy beef from Argentina to stabilize beef prices would be an absolute betrayal to the American cattle rancher. It's time to learn who this man is, Merriweather Farms. We understand that there are larger economic and geopolitical dynamics at play, including countering CCP influence in countries in our hemisphere. Argentina sells soybeans to the CCP. Donald Trump is helping the CCP by doing this. And maybe the craziest part about all this is Trump's plan doesn't even make any sense. Not only do the ranchers oppose Trump's Argentina beef imports, but exports say that it will not even lower prices at all. So here we go again, another Trump term. The farmers get screwed over again, and Trump says that they should say thank you. We'll keep covering all the news. Remember to follow along and listen to the Midas Touch podcast for more.
So, cattle ranchers. Specifically those cattle ranchers of America that voted for Donald Trump. You liking your vote now? Are you still down with the program? Trump says you should be thanking him, man. He saved your ass. I don't know who's getting saved, but I know who's getting fucked. My wife and I paid $18 for 2 pounds of stew meat the other day. Yeah, this needs to be figured out. And you cattle ranchers, maybe you should stop voting for people like Trump.
We know this, but it bears repeating. Donald's nonsensical tariffs have wreaked havoc on the United States economy. Well, on October 14th, Donald made another decision that has economists scratching their heads and American ranchers and farmers seething. The Washington Post reported that Donald announced a $20 billion bailout for Argentina. He said this uncharacteristic act of generosity is meant to help the country's president, Javier Milei, ahead of the country's October elections. Donald openly admitted that this move would not directly benefit the United States. Wait a minute. Not entirely sure how you square that with America first. You know, the agenda that he's been campaigning on and bragging about for over a decade. But the plot thickens, which is to say things get worse because we're talking about Donald. Later that week, NBC News reported that the Trump regime is doubling its Argentinian bailout to $40 billion. The plan's apparently meant to stabilize Argentina's struggling economy and bolster Milei, who is a close ally of Donald's because Donald wants to keep him in power. So in the middle of our government shutdown, which we can lay solely at the feet of Donald and the Republican Party, a shutdown that has put hundreds of thousands of Americans out of work, and an economy that is flailing because of Donald's misguided and, quite frankly, stupid economic policies, he's giving $40 billion of our money to a foreign country because the Argentinian president likes him. Naturally, journalists are struggling to get to the bottom of this bizarre turn of events. And here's what Donald had to say to reporters on Air Force One in defense of his bailout.
What do you have to say to U.S. farmers who feel that the deal is benefiting Argentina more than it is them, as they are
Argentina's fighting for its life, young lady. You don't know anything about it. They're fighting for their life. Nothing's benefiting Argentina. They're fighting for their life. You understand what that means? They have no money. They have no anything. They're fighting so hard to survive. If I can help them survive in a free world, I happen to like the president of Argentina. I think he's trying to do the best he can. But don't make it sound like they're doing great. They are dying. All right? They're dying.
I love the misogynistic condescension. That's always a nice extra benefit whenever Donald talks to women. But the idea that he cares or that Argentina is dying. Yeah, a lot of people around the world are dying because of Donald Trump's policies. Do you know what a tiny percentage of $40 billion went to USAID? And because it was just...
Man, fuck them farmers. First it was soybean coming on here bitching and moaning, and now it's all the cattle ranchers. They're talking about Argentine beef, and why would we buy Argentina's beef? We need to sell the beef here. Dear DEER, Mr. President, why are you doing this to us? We voted for you. You know what? I have good news for the cattle ranchers, though. It may seem like a dark time, but I have good news. The silver lining is maybe at the end of this, you'll be invited to the ballroom. Maybe you'll get to go to that $250 million ballroom. Maybe, just maybe, he'll invite your manure-smelling ass to the ballroom. And then all this will be water under the bridge, and you can go kiss your daddy's ass like you have for the last decade. Because Donald Trump is for the farmers. He's for the ranchers, right? Isn't that why he gave Argentina, America first? He gave Argentina $40 billion. Meanwhile, the price of beef skyrockets. Meanwhile, Argentina undercuts the price of soybeans so they can continue to sell to China. Meanwhile, China has cut off all trades for produce and agriculture with the United States. but the farmers would vote for him again in 2028. I thought farmers were supposed to know something. I thought they were supposed to be kind of smart and understand science and math and shit like that. But what I'm seeing is they're just a bunch of gullible asshats to vote for the same man who tried to bankrupt you in 2019, vote for him in 2020, and turn around and vote for him again in 2024. So I don't know what to tell you, but your sobs ain't worth a pitcher of warm piss. My give a damn is busted.
Ever wonder how cows get fed on American farms? A single bale of hay weighs around 220 pounds, and just peeling off a little by hand isn't nearly enough for a whole herd. That's where pickup trucks come in. With the right attachments, a bale can be handled in no time. No wonder Americans are so obsessed with their pickups, they're super practical for farm work. But cows can't survive on hay alone. They need proper nutrition, too. You've probably seen cornfields all over in American shows. They're not just for decoration. Farmers use special spreaders to layer corn evenly over the hay, basically making a nutritional combo meal for the cows. The whole process is fully mechanized, clean, fast, and super efficient. And don't let the size fool you. Even on a small farm like this, you can tell that American livestock farming is highly industrialized and scaled up. Cows eat better, and farmers work smarter.
U.S. beef is the highest in demand across the world.
The U.S. supplies 18% of the world's beef.
U.S. farmers and ranchers produce 18% of the world's beef production with only 6% of the world's cattle population.
Trump told the cattle ranchers to get fucked and like it. And when they all started whining about him importing Argentinian beef, let's get into it. So this account here, Merriweather Farms, they've been over on Twitter kissing Trump's ass for years. I'm going to get out of the way, pause it so you can read it all, and then I'll get my fat face back in here. We love and support you, POTUS, but your suggestion to buy beef from Argentina, blah, blah, blah. I love this part too. On top of all of this, the only chaos is coming from the Department of Agriculture. There is no true guidance, mismatching the copious amounts of photo ops. The cattle ranchers are pissed, and Trump could give a fuck less. Here's what he told the cattle ranchers after they were whining about him importing the beef. The cattle ranchers don't understand that the only reason they are doing so well for the first time in decades is because I put tariffs on the cattle coming into the United States. If it weren't for me, they would be doing just as they've done for the past 20 years. Terrible. Let's see what the cattle ranchers associations think about it and how well they're doing. This is a tweet from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Cattlemen and women cannot stand behind President Trump while he undercuts the future of family farmers and ranchers by importing Argentinian beef. It is imperative that POTUS and Secretary Collins lets markets work without interference. If the administration is truly an ally of America's cattle producers, we call on him to abandon this effort to manipulate markets and focus on these things. It don't sound like they're doing too well to me, does it? I love nothing more than when he pisses in his supporters' faces and tells them to enjoy it. He tells them they're doing great when they're not doing great. It's what he does to the entire fucking country all the time. So I fucking love it when his supporters get it thrown right in their fucking faces what is happening in this country. And then they want to whine and cry about it. Look, let me tell you something. You don't owe these people any empathy. No one who voted for Donald Trump deserves your empathy. If they're losing their farms, if they're losing their ranches, if they're losing their health care, if they're losing their food assistance, they do not deserve your empathy. They show no one else any empathy. These people, these ranchers, these farmers, none of these Trump voters gave a fuck if he was harming other people. So do not give them the empathy that they do not deserve.
Well, you've pissed off the cattle industry. You could say they've got beef with Trump. All right, folks, you see what I did there? Here's our final story of the day. Trump said the cattle ranchers who I love don't understand that the only reason they are doing so well for the first time in decades is because I put tariffs on cattle coming into the United States, including a 50% tariff on Brazil. If it weren't for me, they would be doing just as they've done for the past 20 years. Terrible. This is all in response to Donald Trump essentially bringing the price down on cattle by introducing Argentinian beef. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association, one of my favorite organizations out there, said this: America's cattlemen and women operate in one of the most competitive marketplaces in the world. U.S. cattle producers are proud to provide the safest, highest quality beef on earth. We simply ask that the government not undercut them by importing more Argentinian beef in order to manipulate prices. Cattlemen and women cannot stand behind President Trump while he undercuts the future of family farmers and ranchers by importing Argentinian beef. It is imperative that President Trump and Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins let cattle markets work without interference. Addressing the scourge of black vultures. I have no idea what the hell that last part meant, but it sounded pretty badass. There is the National Cattlemen's Beef Association telling Trump, stand down with that Argentinian ass. By the way, don't take my word for it. Here we have a cattle farmer, again, also speaking out against the manipulation of prices by introducing Argentinian beef into our market.
Everybody's wound up today because Trump says we're going to import all this beef from Argentina. We're going to lower our beef prices because the beef's too expensive here. And I thought I'd throw my 2 cents in. First of all, it's not really a new thing to import beef. We've imported beef in this country for a long time. What is new, however, is the government getting involved because of the prices and saying the beef prices are too high. We're going to make a deal. We're going to buy a bunch of beef from Argentina, and we're going to undercut the American farmers and ranchers who are finally making some decent money. And that's just, it's a socialist mindset, if you ask me. Supply and demand, where did that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, there it is, folks. So you've lost the farmers and you've officially lost the plot.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.